My name is Sophie. I work in corporate strategy, but don't let the spreadsheets fool you. I specialize in quiet power. I don't chase drama, I design it. And when the moment is right, I strike with precision. This is the story of how I turned a company dinner into a masterclass in revenge, without raising my voice or spilling a single drop of sparkling water. Welcome to The Dinner Was Lovely Until My Revenge Made It Unforgettable. Stay with me. You'll want to hear how it ends.
It wasn't the lighting, the overpriced salmon, or the fake laughter that made the dinner unforgettable. It was the intern. His name was Dami, barely 22, always in the background, always scribbling in that little notebook like he was preparing for a quiz no one assigned. Most people didn't notice him. Candace certainly didn't. T, our regional director, once asked him if he was with catering. But I noticed, not because I'm kind, because I'm observant, and because quiet people are rarely empty. 3 days before the dinner, I was refilling my bottle at the office water station, sparkling, of course. Hydration is strategy. Dami walked in, hesitated, then said, "I think you should see something." He didn't elaborate, just sent me an email later that evening, no drama, no subject line, just a forwarded thread, one Candace thought she deleted, the one where she blamed me for losing the London account last year, the one she sent to T, with a little flourish. Sophie's too polished. Clients want someone relatable. I read it twice, then once more, just to savor the flavor of betrayal. I didn't respond to Dami. I didn't need to. I just smiled, closed my laptop, and started planning my outfit for the dinner. I arrived precisely 7 minutes late, not enough to be rude, just enough to be noticed. The venue was predictably overdone. Crystal chandeliers, velvet napkins, and a jazz trio playing something no one was listening to. The kind of place where people pretend to enjoy beetroot foam and call it elevated. I walked in wearing ivory with gold accents. My heels didn't click, they punctuated. My hair, sleek and sharp, and in my hand, a glass of sparkling water, fizzing like a secret. Candace spotted me first. Her smile was wide, her eyes calculating. She air-kissed the air near my cheek and said, "Sophie, you look powerful." I smiled. "I am." Thomas T, our beloved regional director, shuffled over next. Bluetooth earpiece still lodged in his ear like a forgotten accessory. He gave me his usual vague praise. "You're doing great things, I'm sure." "Keep it up," I thanked him. "I always do. It's easier than explaining what I actually do." The room was full of chatter, clinking glasses, and the kind of laughter people use to hide discomfort. I took my seat, crossed my legs, and let the evening unfold. I wasn't here to eat. I was here to serve something far more memorable. Candace was already tipsy to glasses of red in and riding the high of a recent promotion. I remember her clinking her glass and saying, "Let's toast to growth, to grace, and to learning from our mistakes." Then she looked directly at me. I didn't flinch, but I knew what was coming. She told a story, loud enough for T to hear, about a client mishap that nearly cost the company a major account. She didn't name names, but she didn't need to. Her eyes did the pointing, her tone did the stabbing. Everyone laughed politely. T chuckled and said, "Well, we live and learn." I sipped my sparkling water and smiled, not because I was okay, but because I was calculating. Candace thought she'd won, that she'd buried me under a pile of passive-aggressive charm and plausible deniability. What she didn't know was coming. I waited, and when the time is right, I serve my revenge chilled, with bubbles. Candace was called on first, naturally. She stood, clinked her glass, and launched into a speech so polished it squeaked. She thanked the team, praised collaboration, and made 3 separate references to her own leadership. Then said, "Let's toast to growth, to grace, and to learning from our mistakes." T nodded like a bobblehead. The room applauded. Then I stood up. No one expected it because I rarely speak at these things. I'm the kind of woman who lets her work do the talking. But tonight, I had something to say. I raised my glass of sparkling water, clear, sharp, fizzing with restraint, and smiled. To growth, I began, to grace, and to learning from our mistakes, Candace froze. This year, I continued, I learned that silence isn't weakness. It's preparation. That being too polished is only a problem for people who prefer mess. And that sometimes the most powerful voice in the room belongs to the person no one bothered to listen to. I glanced toward the far end of the table. Dami looked up. Just once. Just enough. So tonight, I said, I'd like to toast someone who reminded me that truth has a way of surfacing, even when buried under charm and champagne. The room was silent. T blinked. Candace's smile twitched. I took a sip. The bubbles danced. The trap was set. I let the silence linger, just long enough for discomfort to settle in. Then I continued, voice calm, tone crisp. A couple of months ago, a story made the rounds. A clever little anecdote that cost me a client, a reputation, and a promotion. It was subtle. It was strategic. And it was false. Candace shifted in her seat. T blinked like he just remembered what the story was. I didn't respond then, I said, because I don't do public scenes. I do private strategy. I turned slightly, just enough to catch Candace's eye. And sometimes the truth doesn't need to be shouted. It just needs to be quietly confirmed by someone who was never supposed to be listening. Dami, seated at the far end of the table, looked up. Just once. Just enough. Then I dropped it. 3 days ago, I received a forwarded email. One that was never meant to be seen. It was sent by someone in this room, someone who thought deleting it would erase the lie. The air shifted. Glasses paused mid-sip. Candace's smile twitched. In that email, I was described as too polished and not relatable enough for clients. I was blamed for a loss I didn't cause. And the sender? Well, I let the sentence hang, like a chandelier about to fall. Let's just say she's very good at pretending to toast teamwork. T's face strained. Candace opened her mouth, but no words came out. I took a sip of my sparkling water. The bubbles fizzed like applause. I'm not here to demand anything, I said. I'm simply here to remind you that truth has a way of surfacing even when buried under charm and champagne. The room was silent, not the polite kind, the stunned kind. I smiled, not wide, just enough. I didn't wait for applause. That's not my style. I simply picked up my clutch, adjusted my sleeve, and stood. The chair made the softest sound as I pushed it back, like punctuation at the end of a perfect sentence. Thank you all, I said, for a truly memorable evening. Then I paused, just long enough for the room to lean in. Oh, and if you're wondering what I was referring to earlier, I just sent the email as a broadcast, a beat, then chaos. Phones lit up like fireworks. Notifications pinged across the table. People scrambled, fumbling for devices with the urgency of a scandal unfolding in their palms. T's face strained. Candace's hand trembled as she tapped her screen. Dami didn't move, he'd already read it. I walked past the jazz trio, still playing something no one was listening to. Past the velvet napkins and the beetroot foam. Past the people who used to underestimate me. Outside, the air was cool, clean. I took a long sip of my sparkling water and let the bubbles settle. Inside, the dinner continued, but the evening had already ended. Monday didn't feel like a workday. It felt like aftermath. The office buzzed, not with productivity, but with whispers. Screens lit up with forwarded emails, Slack threads, and side eyes. My broadcast had landed like a grenade wrapped in silk. Candace arrived early for once. Her makeup was heavier, her voice lighter. She greeted everyone like nothing had happened. Everyone greeted her like everything had. T kept his door closed. Meetings were rescheduled. HR was suddenly reviewing internal communications. Dami? He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His desk had been moved closer to the partner's wing. Quiet reward. And me? I walked in wearing slate blue, calm, cool, and impossible to ignore. People looked up, not out of politeness, out of recognition. I didn't gloat. I didn't explain. I simply opened my laptop, sipped my sparkling water, and let the silence speak. The dinner was lovely, I whispered to myself, but the broadcast? That was the main course.
This is revenge on where elegance meets execution. Want more stories like The Dinner Was Lovely Until My Revenge Made It Unforgettable? Subscribe if you believe silence can be savage. And revenge with style is a strategy. Because the next story, it cuts deeper.